friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Thackeray, and I'm excited to be here. Just wanted to say that. I actually just got done playing a couple of indoor soccer games. I had two tonight on two different teams. I got to play with my brother, which is always super fun. And then another team that I play on with my wife when she's healthy. She actually tore her ACL a few months back and has been, several months back now. She's 2 months removed from surgery and is making some progress. So stoked to see that, but it's been a long road. Anyway, we love soccer in our house. It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, excited actually for a number of reasons. One, it's just a good time of year, a great time to sit back and reflect on what's happened in 2022, look at the business as a whole, see some of those gaps, and make some adjustments. It's all about this fine tuning, this evolution of the business, right? And making it really conform to your ideal lifestyle, and I think a lot of us, we get this idea of what success is and we work towards it, but we don't really ask ourselves, is that success for me? Or is that based on someone else's definition of success? And so it's really taking the time to identify what's most important to me. Is that the income? Is that the time, freedom and flexibility that come with owning your own schedule? What are those priorities to you? And how can you make your business work for you and work for your life and your lifestyle? So that's been been on my mind, and it always tends to come up this time of year anyway, because I love to think about things. I love to look back, but I also love to just plan ahead and set goals. I love having something to shoot for, to work towards, and so excited about that. But two, it's also the start of a new season here. I'm in Utah, and we just got some snow, and so it's got me all amped up for winter. I do some backcountry snowboarding, backcountry skiing, and pumped to get out there again on my split board. So yeah, lots of things going on. And anyway, but I've got a really fun episode for you today. It's a little bit different, but it's still, I'm going to term it as marketing for talent. How do you market for talent for your practice? And recently, let's see. So this was about a month ago. I was down in Las Vegas for a leadership conference, and there was a keynote by a guy named Steve Cadigan, and he is a consultant. He owns his own firm, but he was LinkedIn's first chief HR officer, and kind of went through this whole evolution with HR and with the perception of what's going on in the industry as far as work, and so I wanted to share what some of the points that he unveiled while we were at this conference. And it was so fascinating because I'd come up against this time and time again with clients who have battled to find good talent, to find good employees. And some of the things he said really shifted my mindset and made me see things a lot differently. And so I wanted to share those with you because this is a very integral part of building a successful practice. You have to be able to market your brand. You have to be able to market to attract that talent and retain that talent. But we're going to talk about a few things and a few ways to do this a little bit differently, a few things to think about this and how to think about this differently, really, because it does take a little bit of a shift, okay? Because, we're kind of used to this idea of you come in and you earn loyalty from the company kind of deal, where they're going to provide you with a job, and in return, you're going to stay and you're going to help thrive and grow and all these things. And we kind of just expect that. It's antiquated, really. As we look at what's happening, we see that this is no longer the case. It's no longer reality. In fact, when I was down in Las Vegas, and I've seen a couple of signs since, but I was on the freeway driving into the Strip, and sure enough, there was this help wanted sign, and it was so interesting. It said, now hiring, all you have to do is show up, and that's kind of where we've gotten to now, where we're desperate for talent. We're desperate for good teammates, really. I mean, we're to building that team that can support us and to help us grow and thrive and serve our patients, right? And so, and I've seen, another sign that said, "We all quit. Sorry for the inconvenience." I mean, it's such a different time, and so let's get into that a little bit. At first, I wanted to start with a story, because I think this is going to help us to make that mindset shift that's required to see this, to kind of embrace this new reality in terms of employment. And I'm a sports guy, and it deals with Mike Krzyzewski. I hope I say that name right, because I always butcher it. But Coach K, as he's better known, he was the head coach for the University of Duke, a men's basketball team, and one of the greatest coaches of all time. He won 5 national championships, and I believe he won 6. I was just checking my notes. 6 gold medals as the head coach of the U.S. national team, the men's basketball national team. So he knows what he's doing, and he's done this for a long time. But he'd kind of built up his style, his whole coaching philosophy, where it was, you come in, you kind of basically, you put in your time, and you're going to see the parallels to employment, but you put in your time, and then, when you're junior and senior, you're going to get more playing time on the floor, in the games. And that was kind of how it was. You have these upperclassmen that would help essentially mentor those that are coming in, the underclassmen, and really developing them. And then, when you're junior or senior, then you'll have your playing time, you'll have your chance, right? But then, and he did really well. He won 3 national titles in that philosophy, right? And he was always one of the perennial favorites. Just a great team. He just had he knew he was a great coach, and he knew how to build that championship team. Then something happened, and everything got messed up. So around 2000, I want to say 2005, 2006, is when they instituted the one and done year. So it was 2006. The rules changed for the NBA draft, and they started requiring that high schoolers have to have at least 1 year of college before entering the NBA draft. And that's really what ushered in this one and done era, is what we call it. They come for 1 year and then they're done. They bounce to the NBA draft for lots of reasons, right? I mean, they're talented, and they know that they don't want to risk injury. They just want to get, cash in, basically, because they're going to get paid millions. And anyway, there's a lot of reasons for that. But this kind of flipped Coach K's coaching style on its head, because now, these players, they're not staying for 3, 4, 5 years to play. They're not coming up through the ranks like he was used to. And so he's like, "No, that's stupid. Like, this is just a fad. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go recruit kids that are going to leave after a year. It's just not going to work." But he started to see that some coaches embrace that, John Calipari being one of them, from University of Kentucky. He was first at Memphis, I believe, and then went to Kentucky, and had great success because he recruited those players and was able to take their talent and leverage that talent into success, And so after a few years of this, Coach K realized that, hey, I need to change. I need to adapt to what's going on. And so he eventually came around to this idea and ultimately embraced this new reality that, hey, it's not like it used to be. And I'm going to have to go after this talent because I can't afford not to. We keep losing against this talent. But he changed his mindset instead to, okay, how do I build a championship team in 3, 4, 5 years with these players that are staying? How do I build a world-class team in 6 months? How do you keep those? And oftentimes it's really 6 months, because the playing season, they're just there really for the playing season. It's not even a full like academic year. It's literally like 6 months. And so he had to really adjust his approach. And so what he did was a few things. So when he was going out recruiting, he would tell these kids as they're coming in that, hey, we're going to prepare you for the next phase of your career. Your value is going to increase. And I'm going to grow you not only as a player, but also as a person. And I'm going to surround you with other great talent. He basically told them that our culture, we're all about winning, building great talent. And even if you don't make the NBA, we'll help you get a job as a coach, as a scout, or something that you want to do. We have a tremendous alumni network. All these things to help them. He changed his focus to, instead of looking, at the program or as the basketball team, he started looking more through their eyes and focusing his offering basically on them, making them the hero of the story. We're preparing them for the next phase of their career, helping them increase their value and grow as a person and player. They're going to be surrounded with other talent, so it's going to make them look even better and be even easier, more competitive. They're going to get options to see, or they're going to get opportunities for scouts to see them. All these things, and then even if that doesn't work out as far as the NBA goes, dude, we got you covered. Come to the University of Duke. And he did awesome. Like and then as soon as he kind of fully dialed that in, then he ended up winning 2 more national titles before he retired. And so he had for a total of 5 national championships as NCAA coach. But it's this mindset shift that it was required for him to adapt to what's happening in the world. And I bring that up because this is exactly what's going on with employees. You look at especially with the pandemic, like what happened with the pandemic, everything changed and it just got sped up. I think that it was trending that way, but it really got magnified when the pandemic hit. There's tons of different articles, and there's been literally dozens of articles that have come up like, you are not the person you were before the pandemic. This is what an entire year of quarantine has done to you, and how the pandemic has changed us permanently. And, and just how we're just different, and we've seen some of the effects of that. There's all these, not only obviously the companies are desperately seeking a talent, trying to attract the right talent, the right people to fill their jobs, but there's even countries that are putting out ads to try and attract more people, residents, to come work. Germany, there's an article in the U.S. News. Germany wants to attract 400,000 skilled workers from abroad each year. And then there's one from Europe, or from Portugal, excuse me. There's one from Canada, Australia. It's wild, and this is just to give you, this is the context that we're living in right now. So this just really helps us understand, okay, this is what's going on right now. And it's what's really interesting is that you look at things now. And years ago, I grew up, my dad worked for the same company his entire life. He was an accountant, worked for KPMG, and retired. And then he ended up working in retirement just to fill his time for someone else. But he spent his entire career in one single place. When you look at the tenure of employees based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you see in 2014, the tenure was 4.7 years, just shy of 5 years. Now that's gone down to 4.2 years. And within certain age demographics, 25 to 35, it's 2.8 years. And we see that all the time, especially in our industry. We see people bouncing for menial jobs. Like it's so crazy. You'll see, a dental assistant that's been there for a while and just finally just be like, dude, no, I'm going to go work at Starbucks, or I'm going to go work at Arby's, and for the same amount. It's just, you're like scratching your head. What's going on, and that's something that I don't think is going to change in the near future. This is something it's a trend that's going to probably get magnified even more as we move forward. And you look at what's interesting is if you take a lot of these bigger companies, you look at the Googles, the Apples, Amazon, Salesforce, Microsoft, Facebook, you look at their median length of employment and it is astounding. Certainly they have, you think of these are like the best, some of the biggest, brightest companies in the world, right? And you think, man, they probably have like people that have been there forever, like Coach K, like the people that they've groomed up there and they're just fantastic team members and they just know their stuff and they know how to train, they know how to get people and they keep them for a long time. And that's not what the numbers say. The median length of employment for Google, theirs was one of the higher ones, 3.3 years. Apple, 0.3 years. 0.3. That's crazy. That is crazy. Amazon, 0.8. Microsoft, 3.8. Facebook, 1.3. It's astounding, right? And what does this really mean? When you're thinking about it, how are they able to do this? Another example is Tesla. They have their median tenure is 2.3 years and their market cap right now is over 100,000. No, is that, I can't even remember. I don't even have the stat right in front of me. It's huge. It's massive. Oh God, I want to say like 556 billion or something like that. I could be wrong, but so don't quote me on that, but it is crazy. But the point is, it's not because they have people that have stayed with them forever and ever. No, what they've done, and this is what this guy, Steve Cadigan, this is what they built at LinkedIn, was to shift this mentality and help people take advantage of this new reality, right? Where people are coming, from different places and they're trying to, build up their resume and then they're going to be off doing something else, And frankly, in our industry, we kind of know that. Like we've probably danced around this for years and years and said, oh, come make a career at our office, and someone's like, no, I'm not going to be a dental assistant for my whole life. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. That's okay is my point. When we start to embrace this reality where people are coming from a different place, they're going to be here for a little bit and then they're going to leave. Like that can be a tremendous boon to our practice because they're bringing in different experiences. And this is one of the things that Steve talked about. He lives in Silicon Valley, and this is what makes that place so dynamic in terms of where you see these companies grow and shoot up, and they're all of a sudden they're these unicorns, they're billion-dollar companies in a matter of years. And that's because there's all this kind of incest going on, with the talent over there, where there's some that, they'll start at Google and then they're going to bounce to Facebook and then they go over to Instagram or they go to Snapchat or they go to Airbnb or something like that. And they bring their experience and their training and all that, and they add to whatever company that they're working for at the time. And that's where the magic can happen if you have the right mentality and approach to it. And someone who's done this really, really well is, now I'm blanking on it, it's Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is amazing at this. In fact, if you go to their, and it was on there, I have a screenshot of one of their training career pages, and it says, "We are engaged in your future," and it has 3 columns with 3 different employee success stories. One of them is, member turned team leader, and then the other 2 are people that they don't even work for the company anymore. It says from restaurant team member to 5th grade teacher. And she talks about how this allowed her to get to her dream job, and the training she learned, the leadership, the communication, the teamwork, that's what enabled her and empowered her to get to where she wanted to go. And that's what they're touting. They know that people aren't going to stay and work at Chick-fil-A forever, right? They know that, but they're there to help them along the way. And there's another one too, how being a team member prepared this ER nurse to care on the front lines. She's like, I learned all these skills of being able to have all my patients feel cared for and understood and listened to from my experience at Chick-fil-A. And it sounds silly, but it's amazing that they've done this and they understand, what's happening, the reality of the situation in terms of employment. And I think this is the great opportunity that we have is if we can help these people that come in, see that we are just like Coach K, like, hey, you're going to have you're going to be surrounded by great people. We're going to help you get to where you want to go. Where do you want to go? Like, what are your goals? Let's help you get there. Because when you're gone, you're going to tell other people about us and be like, oh man, dude, I was so cool. Like, I loved working at that practice. They helped me in this, and this, and then eventually helped me get my dream job. Like it's kind of a endless recruiting cycle, once you have it dialed in. And that's what's so cool about all this really is that you can build this up in such a way that, yeah, it's still going to be, they'll still have people that won't stay for as long as you probably want, but that's not going to change. What can change is the way that you treat those people while they're there, so that, if they leave, oftentimes they could be the ones to know someone who can fill their spot and be like, oh, dude, I've got a sister-in-law that would be great for that. Or I've got a nephew who's just in college. It would be a fantastic job for him, and they can help you fill those gaps. And that's where the magic can happen. But one thing that you need to focus on is them. It's not, and it's just like in marketing when you're trying to attract new patients, you've got to see everything from their perspective. It's what are they, it's because if you're looking at it from how it was in the past, like people weren't, people in the past, they wanted security. They wanted to be like my dad, he was the same place for his whole career. They loved that. Like that was, they were needed and they were wanted and they had that security there, 30 years, 50 years of service, whatever it was, but today it's different. The median 2.4 or 2.8 years, 25 through 35. Yeah, it's short. It's really short, but they want movement. They see things differently. It's like, well, hey, I've got this experience here and I can take that and go find a new position that's going to give me a little bit more experience in this realm, maybe some leadership positions. It grows my network. I'm gaining new skills. All that makes me more valuable to employers. That's the safety really comes from movement. It's almost the opposite, where before safety was in being stationary and being with the same company for a long time. Now it's this freedom to go anywhere, So that's kind of the shift that's taking place. It's not necessarily this loyalty to the company like it was in years past, but it's this loyalty to learning and to growing and to developing, which I love, because like I said at the beginning of the podcast, like every time of the year right now, this time of year, I just get so amped up on, okay, what are my goals? How have I improved over the year? What are some other tweaks that I can make? So, with that, what are we doing? What are we doing to address this situation? And one last thing that I'll say too, is this is just like the consulting industry. If you're Bain and Company, the people, the Deloittes of the world, where they love to get people to come in and then they love to see them go. It's like, come work over here, then please go get a better job. Because then it's often an introduction back to the company for the company that they're working for. They recognize how many leads and business comes from those people that used to work for them, who are now working for different employers, different companies, different corporations that are coming back to Deloitte or to Bain and saying, hey, we could really use your help on this, And not only that, but they do tremendous alumni networking events where they just come get people together And talk about referral generation, like right there is so awesome. But that's the mentality. That's what I'm trying to help convey, is if we can see it for what it is, this opportunity, then it can be just that. But if we're stuck in this antiquated mindset of, hey, they've got to come, they got to be loyal to me. What the heck? Why aren't they staying? Nobody wants to work. It's tough treading. It's gonna be uphill battle for sure. So, a couple of things is, how do we do this? The kind of how the action steps would be. All right. So first, like I mentioned, look at it through the eyes of the employee. Engage in the employee instead of expecting them to engage in the company. It's kind of this me first attitude for them, right? It's also helping them to redesign and reshape kind of what they view as their job responsibility. Okay. So helping them see what, again, kind of starting with their why, starting with where they want to go ultimately, and just say, well, how can we help you get there? You're going to love it. And we recognize you're not going to be here forever. And I think just addressing that right off the bat, they're like, whoa, yeah, man, well, they really do care about me. They want to help me get to where I want to go. So I think it's just this right off the get-go, setting the table and setting those expectations for what is it that you want and how can we help you get there? Let's take this opportunity you have with us right now, and we'll really sharpen some of those skills. We'll give you some opportunities to grow and develop, maybe some leadership if that's applicable, and set you on your path. Okay. But that's really kind of what we're talking about here, is developing talent is kind of your core business, in that sense, from a team perspective. It's all about developing talent and helping them to become the best version of themselves while they're there with you. Because if you're that place that where you're known for that, that's where top talent wants to come. That's where people are going to be like, no, you got to go there. There's people that go to Chick-fil-A because of their training programs. I mean, there's lots of companies and corporations out there just like that. Like, they're known, Hobby Lobby. There's some other one, they're not coming to mind right now, but there's several of them that people go there just for the train. Disney being one of the most famous ones. The training is exceptional, and that's why they do that. So be known for that. Anyway, so like I said, it's kind of a different episode this time, but it's something that I feel like, man, this needs to be shared, because too many of us are stuck in this old-timey thinking, So take those people that are coming in, take their, experiences from other places, utilize those, focus on how you can help develop them and how you can help them get to where they want to go ultimately. And you're going to see a much better return on your teammates, on your employees, with this type of approach. 100% guaranteed. I've started to do that with my employees, to sit down and be like, where is it that you want to go? And it is so cool to see how differently they react. Because at first, and quite frankly, at first they were a little hesitant to share, like, oh, I want to still, I like where I'm at, I want to keep working with you and keep growing that way. But it took a couple of times to let them know that I was serious. I said, and I was sincerely interested. It's like, that's great. I love that. But where do you really want to be? Do you want to, what's kind of income do you want to have? All these things, and then we can reverse engineer the process and say, cool, your goal is this. Let's get you, here's how we can get there. Here's the value that we need to provide in order to make that happen, and then let's focus on some action steps to get the ball moving. So it's really, really cool. I know just from, just doing it recently, it's powerful. So think about that. And his name is Steve Cadigan. And if he does have a book, and I read the book, or listened to it rather, it's called Workquake, one word, Embracing the Aftershocks of COVID-19 to create a better model of working, it's a good book. It's a good book. Actually, I loved his presentation. So I'm lucky, I guess. I'm going to hear that, but his book is good too. But I would just take these thoughts and really think about it, talk about it with your and just try it. Just try talking about it with your team. Be very candid and be very sincere about trying to help them. And I promise you'll see some really neat results from it. Anyways, you guys, thanks for joining today. Another great episode. We'll have more coming your way, especially as the holidays are coming in. So very cool. Getting excited for that. But until next time, my friends, have a fantastic